Chapter 5. Ash and Echoes. The vault's fires had not dimmed in Cain's mind, even as the wilderness changed around them. Days passed, but the visions remained, ghosts of cities lost, of towers crumbling in fire, of faces twisted in betrayal. He rode these memories like a wave, letting them sharpen his senses, his control, and the fire that now obeyed him like breath. He was flame-bound. They crossed into the Red Reach, a desolate plain where char and smoke clung to the bones of ancient battlefields. Here, the ground was cracked and brittle. The wind whispered in languages Cain didn't yet understand. Thalara moved with care. We're walking on the ashes of old wars. Every step remembers. Cain touched a half-buried helm fused with obsidian. It bore the sigil of the Emberian Guard, his father's crest. He knelt beside it. This is where they made their final stand. Yes, Thalara said, and where the sky was set ablaze. The ember blade pulsed at his back. They camped that night beneath a stone arch hollowed by fire. Thalara lit a small flame in her palm, casting flickering shadows as Cain trained. He practiced forms she taught him, motions that flowed like fire dancing through the air. For the first time, his movements felt natural. "You're not forcing it," she said, watching. "I'm listening," Cain replied. He paused. "Did you know them? The old flame-bearers?" "I knew their hopes," she said, "their grief. I was bound to them as I am now bound to you. But I've never seen one rise from exile with such clarity." Cain lowered his blade. "What if I fail?" "You already haven't." They slept under a silent sky, but the silence did not last. They reached the edge of the Crescent Range 3 days later. Smoke curled from the peaks, though no fires burned. Something ancient stirred beneath the stone. Cain could feel it. The ember blade vibrated faintly, responding to unseen currents. It was Thalara who saw it first, a shadow on the ridge, hunched and still. Cain drew the blade. The shadow rose, revealing a beast stitched from smoke and ice, its maw lined with frozen teeth. Runes glowed across its shoulders, frost-bound magic laced with veil corruption. "A warden shade," Thalara whispered. "They never travel this far south." The creature roared. Cain surged forward, fire bursting from his feet. The ember blade flared, cleaving through the air with heat and memory. The beast met him with a bellow of frost, striking with a paw large enough to crush stone. Cain ducked, rolled, struck upward. The blow carved through its side, fire searing runes from flesh. Thalara leapt into the fray, flames trailing from her blades. Together, they encircled the beast, drawing it away from the ridge's edge. But it was cunning. With a sudden blast of freezing breath, it drove Cain back and lunged for Thalara. Cain screamed. Fire erupted from the blade, not as a weapon, but as a wave. The beast disintegrated, blown apart by a burst of controlled fury. Cain stood, panting, the ember blade dim in his hand. Thalara clutched her ribs, blood staining her tunic. "You burned like a flame they could not tame." Cain dropped to his knees. "I didn't think, I just—" "You protected me." She smiled. "And that makes you more than a warrior." He helped her to her feet. She nodded toward the mountains. "Skyborn Keep isn't far now." Cain looked to the summit, where clouds churned like smoke. "The last sanctuary of the flame," he said. "And the first test of your name," Thalara added. Together they climbed. Chapter 6. The Skyborn Keep. The Crescent Range towered over them like a frozen wall of silence. Snow coated the peaks in silver veils, and fire refused to burn for more than a few minutes at a time. Cain and Thalara made their way carefully, keeping close to the hidden ember lines that pulsed beneath the stone. These ancient rivers of flame hummed like buried heartbeats, guiding their steps toward what Thalara called the last sky-held flame. Skyborn Keep. Cain expected ruins, or at best, hollow towers abandoned by time. What he found was a fortress floating in defiance of gravity, anchored above the mountain's highest point by a lattice of glowing ember crystals. Towers rose into the clouds like obsidian spears, suspended on arcs of living fire. Bridges of flame arced between them, shifting with each breath of wind. Thalara smiled as he gaped. This is where the last flame-bearers watch the stars burn. Cain approached the ember bridge with steady steps. At the gate, guards clad in red steel armor barred their path. Their weapons pulsed with heat, their cloaks trailing ash. One stepped forward. No outsiders are allowed within Skyborn Keep. Cain raised the ember blade. The guard stepped back instinctively. The blade hummed like memory made solid. "I am Cain Alarith," he said, voice steady. "Flameborn, bearer of the blade, marked by the first spark." Silence. Then a ripple passed through the fortress. Runes across the towers lit like candles at dusk. A low chime echoed from within. The guard dropped to one knee. "Welcome home, Flamebearer." Inside, Cain was led through spiraling halls of emberglass and goldstone. Every corridor breathed with heat. Tapestries wove the history of the Flamebearers, their rise, their great wars, their fall. And at the keep's heart, beneath a dome of molten crystal, stood the Skyborn Council. 13 chairs, only 9 filled. Eldrin, the Flame Watcher, stood at the center. His hair was silver fire, his robes trimmed with phoenix feathers. When he saw Cain, he bowed. "I knew your father," he said quietly. "He died believing you would return." Cain bowed in return. "I hope to prove him right." They spoke for hours. Cain told of the vault, the blade, the frost guard, and the harbinger. The council listened, some with hope, others with worry. Counselor Vexra, her voice like crackling stone, rose. "A blade and a name do not make a leader. Fire is dangerous. We remember Malric." Cain met her eyes. "I do too. That's why I won't lead with fear. I'll lead with memory." Eldrin stood. Let the old flames test him. They brought Cain to the Hall of Runes. Here, the trials awaited. Each of the 9 counselors placed a flame totem upon the floor, each tied to a different flame-bearer legacy. Cain stepped into the ring. The moment he did, fire erupted around him. He was pulled into visions, battles long lost, cities defended, and choices that burned deeper than any blade. He faced the moment his father died. He faced the day he was hidden in emberlight and forgotten. And then he faced himself, not as he was, but as he might become. The fire whispered, "Lead, protect, burn true." Cain emerged hours later, soot-streaked, breathless, and whole. Each flame totem was lit. Every counselor rose. Eldrin approached and pressed a glowing seal into Cain's palm. "You are no longer a bearer. You are flame-bound." From the tower heights, a phoenix cry echoed across the range. Skyborn Keep had found its heir. Chapter 7. The Council of Flame. The fires in Skyborn. Keep burned hotter than ever, fed by the truth the council could no longer ignore. Cain Alarith had returned, and with him, the Ember Line had flared anew. The Harbinger's rise, the Frost Guard's warpath, the stirring of the veil, all foretold in the Flamebearer prophecies, had begun to unfold. Cain stood at the center of the council hall once more, this time not as a petitioner, but as a chosen one. The counselors, robed in flame-etched silk and crowned with ember steel circlets, took their places on curved thrones around him. Behind him, Thalara stood with her arms folded, her eyes never leaving his back. She knew the weight of what he would say. Eldrin rose first. "We are gathered to decide not whether Cain is of the Ember line. That has been proven, but whether we stand with him against the coming dark." There was a pause. Counselor Vexra, ever the skeptic, leaned forward. "You speak of standing together, but what exactly are we standing against? Frostguard? Malric? Or this harbinger none of us have seen?" Cain didn't flinch. "All of them. The Frostguard are no longer bound by the cold. They've pierced the veil. Malric was a pawn. The harbinger is the hand that moved him. And he's awakening." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. "Old names and old fears," muttered Counselor Ryan. "This realm is weary of war." Cain nodded. "So was my father." "So were the flame-bearers. But the fire we carry is not only for war, it's for guarding what matters. And right now, what matters is every life that will vanish if we do nothing." Lysira stepped forward, her voice sharp and bright. "I've walked the Emberlines. I've heard the whisper of the old wards cracking. The veil is thinning. The harbinger's reach grows daily. If we don't reignite the anchors of the realms, we'll lose more than cities. We'll lose memory." Eldrin turned to the others. "You've heard the truth. What say you?" One by one, the counselors gave their vote. Some were hesitant, others resolute. When the final ember seal was placed in the ring, it blazed gold. Unanimous. Cain was named the flame-bound commander, bearer of the ember blade, and heir to the circle of hollow flame. That night, the keep held a ceremony unlike any in a century. Flames spiraled through the skies, casting glowing birds and beasts above the towers. The forges were lit, and for the first time since the sundering, the great bell of ember steel tolled across the crescent range. Cain knelt before Eldrin in the hall of flame. The ember blade lay across his knees. "You carry more than fire," Eldrin said. "You carry the future. Do you accept that burden?" Cain looked at the blade, then at Lysira beside him. "I do." As the final seal flared on his palm, a new sigil etched itself along his collarbone. A phoenix rising through broken stone. Cain rose. The war had not yet begun. But now, the fire had a name. Chapter 8. The Heart of Ice. The journey north was swift and silent. Cain, Lysira, and a detachment of elite Skyborn Guard crossed the Shardfang Pass and entered a region of silence. No birdsong, no wind, not even the crunch of snow beneath their boots. It was as though the world itself was holding its breath. The heart of ice lay ahead. A crater formed at the height of the Frostfire Wars, where veil magic had collided with a flame-bearer ritual and left behind a scar that never healed. Frost thickened the air, and time seemed to slow the closer they drew. "This place doesn't sleep," Lysira whispered. "It watches." Cain's ember mark burned under his cloak. The closer they came, the stronger it pulsed. The ember blade began to hum faintly at his side, like it too remembered this place. The crater came into view just past dawn. It was vast, ringed by obsidian pillars half buried in snow. In its center, a massive frozen altar pulsed with a faint blue light, an anchor to the veil. "This is where Malric broke the second seal," Arian muttered. The Ice Sentinel had joined them at Eldrin's command, bringing knowledge of the Harbinger's movements. "He summoned the first warden here. That's where it started." Cain stepped forward. "Then it ends here too." But the veil was already thinning. The air cracked, and with a roar of ancient sorrow, the ground erupted. From beneath the frost rose a massive creature, 10 feet tall, cloaked in glacial armor and crowned with horns of ice. Its heart pulsed with darkness. Its eyes held no life, only the echo of ancient command. A frost revenant. Cain drew the ember blade. Flames flared along its edge, turning the snow around him to steam. He leapt, fire spiraling around his limbs as he clashed with the revenant's axe. Every strike sent shockwaves through the crater. The revenant was strong, stronger than anything Cain had faced. It absorbed flame, turned heat to armor. It grew stronger with each failed strike. "We can't win like this," Thalara called, launching spears of fire to little effect. Cain gritted his teeth. "Then we don't fight the revenant. We fight what feeds it." He turned to the altar and saw it now, a rift in its core, black and writhing, leeching magic from the world. The seal had been broken, but not destroyed. It still served as a tether between realms. Cain shouted, "Cover me!" He ran through the storm, the ember blade flaring brighter than ever. Runes glowed along its length, names of those who had come before. He remembered them now. Their sacrifice, their strength. With a cry that echoed beyond the veil, he drove the blade into the altar. Light erupted, golden and red, piercing the sky in a column that split the storm. The revenant wailed as its connection shattered. Ice cracked across its body like broken glass before it collapsed into a heap of frost and silence. Cain fell to his knees. The rift sealed. Later, as they built a fire near the crater's edge, Thalara sat beside Cain, her hand gently brushing his ember mark. "You fought like one of the first," she said. "I remembered them," Cain replied. "I saw every face in the blade." Arion sat across from them. "There are 2 seals left," Cain nodded, "and the Harbinger waits." Above them, the sky shifted, stars trembling faintly. Something had changed. The Harbinger had felt it, and he would not remain silent for long.